Hey, it's Rich Tehrani with TMCnet. Thanks for watching. We are doing a Editor's Day. It's actually Editor's Week. We're out here for a couple days in Santa Clara. We're talking to some of the best and brightest. We've got Mike Banic with us. He's with Vectra Networks. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, I wanted to start at the top. Tell me a little bit about Vectra Networks. You've been there about 3 years.
Right. So the best way to think about Vectra is we are the fastest, most efficient way to find a cyber attacker once they've gotten into your network. So we're not trying to stop that initial infection, but that initial infection, once it takes root, we are going to find all the behaviors of what the attacker is doing inside the network so that you can stop them before any damage is done.
So we would call that anomaly detection? Is that the category you use?
We don't call it anomaly detection, but it's a good thread to start on. We actually focus on, we call it attacker behavior detection or analytics. And the reason why we focus on that is anomalies are going to be caused by pretty much any user. If you log in, you're logging in from Santa Clara this week instead of your office in Connecticut. Well, that's an anomaly. That can cause a lot of noise. There are specific things that an attacker is going to do in executing an attack. Once he infects your computer, he needs to perform reconnaissance and figure out how many subnets do you have, how many hosts per subnet, where's the data center, where are things stored. Your credentials on your computer will only take him so far. And he'll have to maybe steal somebody else's, brute force a password, try to get admin privileges, find the crown jewels before he can steal them. That's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take days to weeks. So listening for those signals, those are attacker behaviors, and that's exactly what we've designed our software to find.
Fantastic. So the idea is that it's impossible to stop a threat because people are going to make mistakes or software is going to be penetrated at some point or another. And so the goal is to try to be notified as soon as possible once someone gets in, almost as a second perimeter. You're not saying don't protect your network, but if someone gets by that protection, it's kind of like a motion sensor.
Correct. So the modern day definition of defense in depth has become Gartner's adaptive security architecture, or even the NIST framework of detect, triage, respond. With in the Gartner vernacular, it's first prevent, but you have to then detect, respond, and then predict based on what you've learned. And so we fit into the detect and respond, and we provide a lot of triage function in there. So if we detect something for you, we're not going to detect it in the way that you might be used to, where like your sandbox says abnormal binary downloaded. We're actually going to detect something, and we're going to tell you there's command and control attacker behavior. This is the type it is, and we're also seeing reconnaissance, and it's on this particular host. So that puts a lot of context at your fingertips so you can take action. And it's the automated triage that we do by correlating everything to the machines that are exhibiting behaviors that helps you prioritize what is the highest threat in your organization. So we allow you to define key assets. So you might have PCI in-scope assets if you're a retailer. You might have databases with PHI. Or if any business is going to have systems with personal identifiable information, so PII. So you can define those key assets, and we'll tell you if those machines have a specific detection, so you can make them your priority, and you're not wasting your time chasing a red herring.
Makes a lot of sense. What kind of company is the type of customer that would benefit from your solution?
So our customers they go across a broad range of horizontals. So financial service firms, everything from classic banks to asset management firms, private equity, manufacturing firms. Education has been a surprising segment for us. Healthcare is a logical one. So it goes across a wide set of verticals. And it's just interesting to see the advocacy from some of them. So one of our customers spoke at HP Protect and talked about how the value of what we do in detection and triage and helping them respond by integrating that with ArcSight, which is at their foundation of their security operations center, has allowed them to actually clear their alerts every day. They save hours and hours in human manpower that they really couldn't afford to lose. And what we're doing is we automate the threat hunting that normally had to be done manually by people, and they just can't hire enough staff to do that. The guys at Pinterest a couple of years ago said, we're buying Vectra because it's headcount augmentation for us. We have another customer who says it's either I buy Vectra or I hire another 3 FTEs that I can't even find in the marketplace.
That's great. Is there anything new in terms of product enhancements lately that we should know about?
There's two things. There's a couple of new detections that are pretty cool, and then there's some partnership stuff that we're doing that's pretty cool. The detection stuff, it's kind of relevant because a couple months ago, when the shadow brokers news hit, where they were trying to sell exploits they stole from the Equation Group, which people widely believe is associated with the NSA. All those exploits are against physical infrastructure, and it was perfect coincidence that we were rolling out a new set of detections that look for abnormal administrative behavior on infrastructure, whether it's firewall, switches, routers, servers, storage arrays. And the reason why we started down this path is we had found that a lot of the physical management ports of these devices don't connect into centralized authentication. According to IDC, 5% of them use the default passwords from the vendor. And so we've built this detection to model for an organization who are the people that normally administer the firewall, let's say. And if we see some new individual that's administering the firewall, we can alert on that. If we see somebody who normally is only supposed to be administering the email server or the SharePoint servers, now accessing a database server, well, that fires a detection. And that, again, gets correlated with anything else that we find. So you get a sense of what is the attacker doing. Because it could be that individual being malicious, or it could be that individual's computer has been hacked by an attacker. And the second detection is also related to the Equation Group stuff, because they were all exploits attacking things like firewalls. There's still 800,000 or more firewalls reachable on the internet that haven't been remediated for these. So it's still a very active threat. And so the detection we rolled out is called Shell Knocker. And what we do is we model all of the normal knocking sequences on every port, on every server, every firewall, every piece of physical infrastructure. So if we see an abnormal sequence, we alert you to it, but like I said, we provide rich context. We don't just say abnormal binary downloader. We tell you, here's the abnormal sequence, and we also tell you, here are all of the other normal knocking sequences we've ever seen on that port, on that particular firewall, that particular server. And again, that gets triaged in with every other attacker behavior that we detect. So those are two of the really new cool detections.
Wow, so you get a sense of what's okay, and then you see what stands out and see what the difference is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting that an advanced adversary like the Equation Group chose to use as a potential attack method physical infrastructure rather than going directly against the virtualization layer or the database or app layer of a data center. And it's for that same reason our security researchers said, if we're going to build new detection algorithms specific to the data center, this is the path to go, because if I were an advanced adversary, this is what I would do. And it all lined up. So it was very cool.
That's great. So what's next for the company?
So what we've been investing in is something that you'll continue to see from us, which is investment in partnerships. So we started several months back doing a partnership with Carbon Black. And it's just actually been rolled out. And what this does is offers really four things. So if there's any endpoint in a network that we're present and we have a detection, we automatically pull context from Carbon Black. So when the security analyst is looking at the host page and he's looking at all those detections, he sees every bit of information he can get from Carbon Black. What processes are running, who's the users on that host. And he has an opportunity, the second thing is to single-click pivot into Carbon Black to continue his forensic investigation. The third thing is he can single-click pivot to isolate the host. And then if remediation occurs and they bring the host back online, the fourth thing is we automatically import the host status. So we tell you, is it isolated, is it active? So that automatically updates when they bring the machine back online.
That's awesome.
And then the second one is with a security orchestration company called Phantom, which the lesson we learned in working with Carbon Black is this is a really valuable partnership, but it takes time and money. The thing with Phantom is they already had connections built for next-gen firewalls, Palo Alto, firewalls like Cisco ASA, Juniper SRX, NAC solutions like Cisco ICE, Endpoint, Carbon Black, Tanium, CrowdStrike. So we've completed our integration with them. So if we detect something, we can now enable somebody to automate the mitigation, whether it's block the host at the firewall, isolate the host with network access control or at the endpoint. And that's pretty cool. Our customers love that because it's, we tell them something's wrong, but they can take immediate action and cut time out of out of the attacker's agenda.
Now, how do you go to market?
So go-to-market for us is we sell through partners, but there's a lot of direct contact because we want customers to try the software. We want them to run a proof of concept, and we're really deliberate about some activities we want them to run through that. We want them to sit through a couple of detection reviews and understand what these detections mean in full context. We want them, if they're using a SIM at the heart of their security operations center, integration with that is part of the POC process.
That's great.
Integration with endpoint, because we want the end of that 6-week process to mean that the tool's already operationalized. And it really limits the amount of work that they do. So we have professional services people that do that in conjunction with partners, but that's how we go to market.
What about pricing?
So pricing is done based on host. It's done based on the number of hosts that we're monitoring, either end user machines like laptops and then server devices.
Okay.
It's a typical model of whatever you're running, just have a license for that, and it keeps you in compliance.
That's great. Anything else? Did we leave anything out?
Yeah, I want you to remember one thing about Vectra when you leave this event.
Okay.
And that is, if I'm worried that there's an attacker in my network, Vectra is the fastest, most efficient way to find and stop that attacker.
That's a great tagline. Fantastic. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.